Good morning, everyone. This is Yunli speaking to you once again from Ho Chi Minh City. Right now, the time is about 7:34 a.m. Indochina time, which is Greenwich Mean Time plus 7. Today is a special episode called Episode 0 of Keeping Up with the Hans. And this episode is basically titled The Pitch, where I pitch my idea and hopefully somebody might pick it up. The idea is that, I want to start this video off right. I want to go ahead and mention that I've lived in Vietnam for over 7 years. I've been married the same length of time, and I have a precocious 4-year-old daughter. That's half Vietnamese, half American. And what I want to do with this TV show is I want to document the entire process of legally immigrating to the United States from start to finish. Now, here's the thing. I consider it to be a reality show. Now, it's not really that reality-like because of how much money I need to make this happen, which is $2 million US after tax. So I get that money right off the top to do what I need to do with it. Now, here's the thing. I already tried talking to Netflix, and apparently they will not hear of any unsolicited TV show ideas that don't go through a lawyer or something like that, blah, blah, blah. So this is just a general video, alright? So here's the idea. I go ahead and get $2 million from some individual who thinks that my show is a good idea. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, because I've already got this all lined up, the first thing I'm going to do is contact an immigration attorney here in Ho Chi Minh City to start the process. Now, the thing that makes it interesting is the fact that I currently do not have a U.S. address because I've been in Vietnam for so long. So, there's a lot of twists and turns with this reality show, and one of those is being able to establish a U.S. residency to be able to assist in the paperwork to go ahead and get my wife and my daughter to the United States. Now, the money that I'm asking for, the $2 million US, is not just for, the immigration attorney or anything like that. The money is going to be spent on a wide variety of different things. First, we have the immigration attorney himself. All right, his services are reasonably priced. Not super expensive, not dirt cheap either. It's reasonably priced. Second, plane tickets. Now, if you've ever traveled internationally on an economy class ticket, you know how much that sucks. Alright, so I was planning on upgrading my family's experience to business class, which I've already looked up on orbitz.com how much that's going to cost. Now, I looked up one-way ticket plus hotel for about 3 weeks. Now, that total price is around $18,000 because from Tan Son Nhut International Airport to Incheon, from Incheon to Atlanta, which is the port of entry for the United States, plus Atlanta to where I'm going, is going to be business class, then first class. So that's the reason why it costs so much. Now, why 3 weeks in a hotel? Well, it's simple. See, to buy a house in the U.S., a straight sale, no mortgage, just a straight sale, it takes about 7 to 10 business days for it to close. So, essentially, it's going to be about 1.5 to 2 weeks, which is about 14 days, to close on a sale. Now, after that, that's where things get interesting because, since I'm American, I know about American homes and I know what needs to be done before you actually move into a home. So, just say for instance that somebody gives me this money, we go through this process, and I'm actually able to bring my family to America. What happens next? So, what happens next is I go ahead and I contact a company called Mary Maids to go ahead and clean the house from top to bottom because it's already cleared out. There's no stuff in it. So it should be real easy for them to go through and, deep clean everything, make sure everything is super clean, sparkly, stuff like that. After that, Then I contact another company called Orkin, Orkin, pest control company, to spray the home for everything. For ants, German cockroaches, palmetto bugs, those are the giant brown cockroaches, silverfish, which are American centipedes, um, and other insects and stuff like that. Now that barrier goes on both the inside and the outside of the home, and it lasts for about 90 days, after which time they have to come back and spray again. So after all that's done, then my family goes through and we go to a furniture store like Ashley Home Furniture or something like that and purchase new furniture sets for the house. Now, me personally, I don't care. I'll take used furniture. Like, I can go down to a used furniture store or a Goodwill or something and get what I need from there. I don't care about that. But I think my wife and my daughter would prefer to have brand new furniture. So as long as it's reasonably priced, it's comfortable, it's something I can see my family using for several years, then we'll get that. I don't really want anything that has like the color black on the furniture because it's really easy to hide, stains and other issues with it. So maybe I might go with like a beige or a tan, something that can easily see if there's any issues with it. So this way, if the furniture there's like some kind of issue with it, that I could have a furniture repair technician come in and repair it. So after that, we move in. All right. Now, this is where stage 2 comes in. See, stage 0 is getting ready to come to America. Stage 1 is actively coming to America. Now, the other thing is that stage 2 is what happens after we're in America. All right. So with stage 0, what's happening is that I'm going to be gathering everything needed to get ready to go to America. This means that I'm going to go ahead and gather important documents, have them translated, notarized, pull my daughter out of school because she's currently in a public kindergarten, and gather this information, talk with the immigration attorney, and then begin the process that way. Now, what I want to do is take my family to America and then have them wait in America to finish the process. But I don't know if this is actual fact or whatever, but I think that because of the immigration rules that were set by President Trump, that I think my wife and my daughter have to wait outside of the U.S. until their paperwork finishes processing. Now, what I want to do is transfer my U.S. citizenship to my daughter because she is my blood. So I want to transfer my citizenship to my daughter and essentially allow my wife to get the green card so she can stay in the U.S. And then after a period of 5 years, make sure my wife gets U.S. citizenship. Now, to be clear, my wife and I have been married over 7 years. All right, we know a lot about each other. Now, this is a bona fide marriage, which means it is genuine. Also, my daughter, she knows both Vietnamese and English, but she speaks more Vietnamese than she does English. So that's all stage 0. All right, stage 1 is actually going to the U.S., which means if we're allowed to film in certain areas, because some areas you're not allowed to film in, I plan to film, going to the airport, going through immigration and customs to exit the country, and then some video on the airplane, and then some video at Atlanta going through customs there, and then some more video going to our final destination. And that's stage 1. Stage 2 is what happens afterwards. Now, that's one of the most important parts because that's where the bulk of the money gets spent. See, what I plan to do is I plan to set aside money for secured credit cards. Now, why is that important? Well, because in America, everything runs on credit. Even things that shouldn't, like opening up a regular bank account, not a credit card, just a regular bank account. All right, so that's number 1. Number 2, rentals. If you want to rent an apartment or anything like that, then you have to go ahead and have credit. All right, because if you don't have credit, you're considered untrustworthy, Even if you have cash in your hand to pay up for a whole year of rent at once, if you have bad credit, they're not going to rent to you. Yeah, that's how bad it is. Now, see, what I want to do is set up a secured credit card for myself, my wife, and my daughter. Now, I can't set up a secured credit card for my wife and my daughter until they actually have the proper paperwork to be in the U.S., like, citizenship for my daughter and a green card for my wife. But I will set up that for myself, if not else. But set money aside for them so they can also have that. Now, here's the other thing. How to get the money from Vietnam to the U.S. Well, the only solution that I found that works is use an international bank. This way you don't have to pay the 3% banking fee. So what you do is that you find a U.S. bank that has an international branch here in Vietnam, such as, we'll see, not a U.S. bank, but they're Standard Chartered. That's a UK bank that does have a U.S. branch office. Or another one is J.P. Morgan Chase. Now, J.P. Morgan Chase has a representative office here in Ho Chi Minh City. They also have Chase Bank, which is the regular banking, and then J.P. Morgan is financial investments. So it's two branches off the same tree. So what I want to focus on is a Chase Bank. See, if I start the Chase Bank account in U.S. dollars and have the money deposited in U.S. dollars, then I should be able to access that same bank account in America and not have to worry about the 3% international transaction fee. So that saves a lot of money there. Now, after the secured credit cards, the other thing I want to do is split the money up evenly. So it'll be split up 4 ways. The remaining money gets split up 4 ways. We go ahead and have 1/4 for the house. Now that quarter includes things like insurance, taxes, surprise repairs like AC blows up or roof shingles fall off, stuff like that. So house repairs. A 1/4 for my daughter. Now that quarter is going to be held in a locked, high interest account so that she can access it, but only after she turns 18. Now, the reason why I say locked is because I don't want it to be accessed from the internet. Like, I don't want anybody to have access to it from the internet. In order to access it, you have to physically go into a bank branch and access the money there. All right. Now, that money will be only available to my daughter after she turns 18. Now, why get a secured credit card for my daughter? Like I talked about earlier, is like I said earlier, everything runs on credit. That's the problem. Everything runs on credit. And by the time my daughter turns 18, I want her to have perfect credit so that she can go ahead and have a great start in life. So she can go ahead and do what she needs to do, be responsible with the credit, do what she needs to do, and she won't have nearly as many problems as I did when I was 18. And then a secured credit card for my wife to go ahead and make sure that because she's a new immigrant to the United States, give her a secured credit card so this way she can build her credit in a safe and responsible way. And this way, if she wants to apply for a loan or anything like that, and the bank or the creditor will see that she has great credit and will thus allow her to go ahead and get that loan because they see how great she is and how responsible she is managing her money. Now, with me, getting a secured credit card is a good idea because it'll help build my credit. Now, I don't like credit cards. I don't want to use a credit card. But just about everything in America runs on credit. So I have to use a credit card, but I want to use a secured credit card. This way, I don't have to worry. I can pay on time, build my credit, everything's good. Now, let's keep going. So, 1/4 for the house, 1/4 for my daughter, that's locked. The next quarter will be for my wife. Now, my wife can spend this quarter on whatever she chooses. I'm not going to tell her what she can or can't spend that money on. So that'll be a separate account with just her name on it. And she can spend that money however she wants. I will have the last quarter to spend however I want. Now here's the thing. See, both of us have to work. We're not going to live off of that money. We have to work. So what I want to do is take my quarter, and invest it, maybe like an Uber or Lyft, and purchase like say 2 or 3 cars, full commercial insurance, with drivers cameras, stuff like that, and GPS stuff like that, and essentially invest in Uber or Lyft, so that way I can make passive income that way, and maybe get a job, say at Hy-Vee or Price Cutter or something like that, like a grocery store. So this way I have at least two sources of income right there. Now here's the thing, with my wife, I want her to get a job also. My wife is a certified yoga instructor, but she hasn't done yoga in some time. She's also good at marketing, and she's also been in management positions. So essentially where we're going, which I'm not going to name the city right now, but where we're going does have a sizable Vietnamese community. So I feel that more than likely she will feel less of a culture shock, since there will be other Vietnamese people there to help out. Well, wow, I've already talked for almost 20 minutes. Now this idea, see, the reason why I came up with this idea is because of the fact that I buy lottery tickets here in Vietnam. Now, foreigners are allowed to win the lottery here, but it's extremely rare when it actually happens. Extremely, extremely rare. Now, if somehow I strike the lottery and I get that much money, maybe not that much after tax, but if I get that much money, then I'll go ahead and start, filming myself. I'll go ahead and start filming Keeping Up with the Hans myself. To keep up with YouTube's rule against personally identifiable information, or the PII, I can't go ahead and say a lot of different stuff, but what I want to do, like I said, is just precisely document from start to finish the entire process of legally immigrating to the United States. Now, currently, the lottery jackpot for the Power 655 ticket is, well, I'm sure it's over $3 million right now, US. But since I have to pay 10% tax to Vietnam, 35% tax, which is the top threshold for lottery tax for the United States, that means about 45%. But since I don't have a U.S. address, I can't pay state tax. And I'm pretty sure the IRS is going to want me to pay state tax. So in order for me to pay state tax, I have to have an address. In order to have an address, I have to buy a house. So I'd have to figure that out. But I'm figuring out of that $3 million, about half of that is already gone for tax. So essentially, I'll be left with maybe about 1.5. And that's still more than enough to do everything I need to do. And I'm going to go ahead, if I do strike the lottery, which, again, the odds of that are extremely small. But if I did strike the lottery, I'd start filming this TV series myself. Raw, unfiltered, uncut, except, we can't show any personally identifiable information or anything like that, yada, 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 blah, blah, blah. And that's if I don't get funding from anyone else. If I get funding from someone else, if someone out there sees this video and they think that my TV show is a great idea, I'll start today. As soon as that money hits my account, I start today. Now, I will say this on video, on record, that if someone is generous enough to fund my idea, to give me $2 million and willing to pay taxes on top of that, because I'm pretty sure that even though it's a gift or salary or whatever else, I'd still have to pay taxes on it. If someone's willing to pay me $2 million plus, pay taxes on top of that, so I get to keep that $2 million to go ahead and start this TV show, I will say on record in front of everyone that watches this video that I will use that money exactly for this show and nothing else. I will not use this show, I will not use the money for any purpose beyond this TV show. And I will document exactly how much everything costs and how long the wait time is. Now, remember earlier, I went and said that the remaining portions will be divided up 4 ways. So my portion I will spend how I want, but I will not rely on that solely to survive off of. I will try to buy at least 3 cars to add to the Uber or Lyft fleet, and I'll also try to have a second job. So I'll have at least 2 sources of income. So I'm not going to rely on just one source of income or the other. Now, the only provision of that is that if the Uber or Lyft fleet system takes up too much of my time, that I won't be able to have a second job, then I'll focus just on that. The point is that I want to have a source of income where I don't rely on what's in the bank account. That's the point. Now, why do I want to do this show? Okay, that's the biggest. If you've been watching this long, you're probably wondering, why do I want to do this show so badly? Well, it's simple. One, winning the lottery is extremely difficult. If you've ever played the American lottery system, you know exactly how difficult it is to even win like $100, let alone the grand prize jackpot. 2, I love Vietnam. All right, that's the other thing I'll go on record and say, that I love Vietnam. I really do. Because of the fact that Vietnam gave me my wife, Vietnam gave me my daughter, and Vietnam gave me a stable home. I've literally lived in this home, this exact house, for over 5 years. Before that, I lived in another house for 2 years. So, because I've been here over 7 years. Now, here's the thing. I will say that, like I said, I love Vietnam. I love the culture. I love the food. I love everything about Vietnam. However, there are a few things that I do not enjoy. First is the fact that labor laws exist here in Vietnam. They do. I've seen it. I've read it. I've even made a series here on YouTube talking about the labor laws. All right, they exist. However, Vietnamese employers, the vast majority, not all, but most, either do not know about the labor laws, do not care about the labor laws, or they just don't think they exist. Because I see, help wanted signs all the time that say 18 to 25 only. That's illegal. Male or female only. That's illegal. Let's see. Also, giving monetary fines as a form of punishment. That's illegal. And no company in Vietnam that is not an English center will not hire me, because I'm not cute, young, single, I'm not female, I'm not childless, I'm not a Vietnamese citizen, and I don't have a bachelor's degree. So, essentially, yeah, I'm not allowed to get a normal job. I'm only allowed to teach English here. And I'm while I do teach English as a form of making money, I do not think that should be the sole focus of my life. I want to focus on normal work, like working in fast food, working in retail, even, like I said earlier, working for Uber or Lyft as a fleet operator. You see what I mean? Teaching English to me is just a side gig. It's not a career. So that's how I'll phrase that. Now, the thing is, though, is the fact that if certain rules and regulations changed in Vietnam, I would happily stay here. But these certain rules and regulations aren't going to change. And I'm not going to name which ones. But anybody who knows me personally knows exactly what I'm talking about. If you know, you know. If certain rules and regulations changed, that I'd stay in Vietnam, but they're not going to. And I feel like I should go ahead and move back to the United States. But I don't want to do so by myself. I want to go ahead and bring my family with me. And essentially, the thing is, though, is the fact that I can't move my family to the United States unless I have funding. See, I've been unemployed since November of 2024. And it sucks because of the fact that I'm not allowed to get a normal job. See, I've even written on LinkedIn, because I have a profile on LinkedIn. I've written about the fact that I've applied for jobs where it's 100% English speaking and working environment. But they won't hire me because I'm not a citizen. Now how does that make sense? I speak English naturally because I come from the United States. English is my first language. Why do I need to be fluent in Vietnamese for a position that requires 100% English? See, 100% English speaking and working environment, if taken literally, means that you only use English all the time while you're at work. When talking with your superiors, your coworkers, your clients, either through text messages or other electronic means, on paper, like all forms of communication is done solely in English. And it's not, because see, for such an environment, if taken literally, is not meant for local markets. It's meant for international markets, like markets in Canada, United States, Australia, New Zealand, United Kingdom, Ireland. Countries that speak English naturally as their first language. That's what that type of business is meant for. However, when you have that specific part that says 100% English or 100% English speaking working environment, and then you refuse to hire foreigners that actually qualify, that's not cool. Because I need a job. I have over 7 years of experience in customer service. I speak English naturally. I'm willing to work today. But no Vietnamese company will hire me, again, because I'm not cute, I'm not young, I'm not single, I'm not female, I'm not childless, I'm not Vietnamese, and I have no bachelor's degree. Now here's the thing, in customer service, which is what I have experience in, there is no bachelor's degree for it. Okay, there is no bachelor's degree for customer service. Alright, so to demand a bachelor's degree or equivalent for customer service, it's stupid. I have college trade certificate in professional workforce development, which is about as close to customer service as what you're going to get. And yet I still can't get a job in customer service here in Vietnam. So I want to go back to America and get a job. I want to go back to work. I'm 40 years old. 40. Okay, I'm already too old to work here in Vietnam. Yeah, they illegally discriminate based on age. It's extremely difficult to get a job over the age of 35. Impossible above the age of 40. Even though there's laws that specifically prohibit discrimination based on age. It's almost impossible to get a job. Now see, why I don't want to teach English professionally anymore is because of the fact that I'm not a circus clown. I'm not Ronald McDonald. I don't sing, I don't dance, I don't play games. I literally just teach the lesson and that's it. Now, why do I do that? It's quite simple. See, I've seen with my own two eyes, and I've heard with my own two ears, what happens when you cut all that stuff out. When you take away the singing, when you take away the dancing, when you take away the games, and you just teach the lesson, kids actually learn more, not less. I've seen it. When you take away all the distractions and you just have the English lesson right there, the kids actually learn more. Now, see, I've seen what happens when you do that, and it's mind-blowing. But see, the English centers here, they only focus on singing, dancing, games. They only focus on white skin, which is another huge issue, because of the fact that parents here in Vietnam who don't speak English, they don't know if their kid's English teacher is actually a natural speaker or if they come from Russia, Eastern Europe, or South Africa. All right? They don't know. And because they don't know, they think their kid has a natural English teacher, but then they come home with a Russian accent, or they come home with an Eastern European accent, or they come home with a South African accent. You see, one of the problems with the English language education market here in Vietnam is people think that white skin equals native speaker, and it doesn't. It doesn't. Okay, I've met people with darker skin tones that come from the U.S., that come from the United Kingdom, that come from Australia, New Zealand. And obviously they speak English as their first language and they speak it flawlessly. But because they're not white, they have a very difficult time getting a job. And then when they do find a job, it's normally half of what a white teacher gets paid. So yeah, there's very rampant discrimination going on here in the English teaching market. And I think that that's, it's not right. As long as the person is legally qualified to teach English here in Vietnam, it shouldn't matter what their skin color is. Now, I think that native, non-native, that distinction also needs to disappear because of the fact that if someone is legally qualified to teach English, that they should be allowed to teach English here. What I'm against specifically are the backpackers, the tourists from Western countries who come to Southeast Asian countries to beg for money to fund their trip around the world. Yeah, I don't like people like that. I also don't like border crossers, people who cross the border illegally to get from one country to another and work illegally. I don't like military draft dodgers, people who come to Vietnam to avoid conscription in their home country like Russia, Ukraine, or other countries. Also, visa overstayers, people who overstay their visa either deliberately or accidentally. Now, those kind of teachers I'm against because they're not here legally. They're either not here legally or they're doing immoral things like avoiding conscription. But I don't want to teach English because of the fact that I feel professionally, I don't want to teach English professionally because of the fact that it's a joke. The English teaching market, the professional English teaching market here in Vietnam is a joke from my perspective. And I feel like unless things change, it's never going to get better. Now, another thing I forgot to mention earlier that I am going to mention now is the fact that in the public school sector, that's different from the private school sector, the international school sector. Okay, I'm focusing on the public school sector. See, as a former public English school teacher, I was forced to pass students on their English exams, regardless of how well or how badly they did. Okay, we were not allowed to give below a 5 on a scale of 0 to 10. We were not allowed to give below a 3 on a scale of 0 to 5, no matter how badly the kids did. Now, we have a whole list of questions to ask, but we're only allowed to ask 1 or 2 questions from each section, and then boom, you pass, boom, you pass, boom, you pass, boom, you pass. Even though the kids can't answer anything in English beyond what's your name. Yeah. Now, this is already going on about 33 minutes, so I'm just going to go ahead and tell the same story again. It was a few years ago, and I was being a substitute teacher for this Russian native English speaker who was sick. First grade class. All right. Now, since I was a substitute, I wasn't really attached to the school. I gave an honest English test for first grade. Okay. Now, you have a class of about, I don't know, 40 kids or so. I didn't really count. Maybe like 40, 45 kids, something like that. And I have a small list of questions to ask each kid. Now, I tested the entire class. All right, the entire class. And remember, this is the end of the year exam. The questions are super easy. No kid in that class could answer any question beyond what's your name. That's it. They didn't know their colors. They didn't know what a pen was. They didn't know anything. And I'm thinking, if this Russian English teacher had the entire year with these kids and they can't answer anything in English beyond what's your name, what are they doing? They're singing, they're dancing, they're playing games. And I gave an honest test result and all the kids failed. Well, the English center that I went through was extremely dissatisfied. The school was extremely dissatisfied because I gave an honest answer. And they retested all the kids with another teacher and voila, they all passed. So that's the reason why a lot of kids here in Vietnam, when they graduate high school, they can't speak English because they're automatically passed. They're not giving an honest test. If all the kids here in Vietnam that go through public school were given an honest English test, out of a class of 50, only two out of a class of 50 would actually pass. Now, I speak from experience. As a certified English teacher for the public school sector, I speak from experience. So this isn't, conjecture, hearsay, or anything like that. It's actual proven fact. So, this idea for this TV show has gone on for about 35 minutes, and I've explained quite a bit. As you can see, I do speak English naturally. I am a United States citizen, and I am willing to prove that to whomever decides to fund my reality show idea. To go ahead and wrap up, since I've already been talking for a really long time, just to recap, what I want to do is pitch a show for a reality, like a reality series on YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, whoever wants to sponsor me. And I need $2 million after tax, not before tax, after tax. So I get $2 million. In return, what I promise I will do is that I will film the entire segment from start to finish. And this is essentially, this is episode 0. This is me pitching the idea. Episode 1 will happen after I get funding. And I will film the entire process, as much of it as I can, because some people don't want to be on camera, and that's perfectly fine. What I can do if somebody doesn't want to be on camera is that I can talk about it later on. Like one video, 1 hour, each and every single day, talking about the process, what I did, what had to happen, what went wrong, what went right, stuff like that. All right, every single day. All right. Now, because of YouTube specifically, I can't reveal personally identifiable information or anything like that. So there will be some segments that will be cut out because of that. But other than that, it'll be, pretty much unfiltered, uncut, legal immigration from start to finish. And I think that this is important. I think it's groundbreaking. And I think it's something that millions of people will want to see. Not just tens, hundreds, thousands, millions. I think millions of people will want to see this show. So, to sum up, I'm trying to pitch a show, I'm trying to pitch an idea for a new reality show. And I'm seeking $2 million for funding after tax to make it happen. And if someone is willing to fund this show, I'll get started today. If someone plopped that money into my bank account today, I will get started today. Because I already got everything all lined up. All I need is money to make it happen. So, got about 2 minutes left. So I just wanted to go ahead and remind everyone that if you want to donate, to go ahead and help me come up with new ideas for videos, pitch me ideas for videos, stuff I can talk about, because I have a wide variety of knowledge on a great many different subjects. Give me ideas for shows, stuff I can talk about on here. Donate money. You can donate to my PayPal, to my Vietnamese bank account. I accept crypto. Even though I started asking for donations over a year ago, I think, nobody's donated a single dime. So nobody's donated anything. That's the reason why I don't really make videos that much, because nobody donates anything. So, anywho, this is Yunli Han, reporting to you live from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. The current time now is about 8:13 a.m. Indochina time, which is Greenwich Mean Time +7. Saying thank you for watching this video all the way through to the end. And if you want to fund my idea, please reach out to me. My email address is tuxedoshadow@gmail.com. Once again, that's tuxedoshadow@gmail.com. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you again soon. Peace.